It seems like unless you've been under a rock, brain dead listening to caveman death metal since 2019, or just straight up out of the loop, you have yet to experience one of the most quickest bands to make a mark in the underground slam/brutal death metal scene, and that is a band called Torture. Now, at first glance, when you look at Torture's breakout album, Enduring Freedom, it takes you back to the days of early bands like Internal Bleeding, Dying Fetus, and even something on par with a band like Ton from Ohio. But musically, it's much more in touch with mid-2000s slam like Cephalotripsy, Devourment, or even Cerebral Incubation. Now, with all these classic bands in the scene being comparisons, you'd expect Torture to be the greatest thing since Mortician, or even Sanguis Shugabog. But how does it fare to the rest of the brutal death metal scene, and what makes it so special musically that sets it apart from the other thousands of bands that have spawned in the scene? It's a subjective matter and opinion, but to me personally, and the opinions of others, it's the genius safety of how Torture styles themselves. There is nothing uneligible about this album, and nothing too unordinary or overly done on a technical level. It's a meat and bones level of playing. If you want cricket vocals and slams, it's what you're getting. The hardcore scene has a take into this, at least a lot more than the brutal death metal and slam scene. On first listen, your ears are blessed with a kick-ass intro and some nasty rhythmatic slams, same for the next track. You're welcome with brutality like no other, and it goes for the next track, and the next track, and the next track, and the next, and the next. One is quick to learn that halfway through the charm wears off, and I'm not the only one who acknowledges it. Other reputable bands and figures in the scene have pointed this out as the main turnoff for the genre. And no, I'm not sharing names, but it seems like a lot of the German scene have pointed out their hatred for the album, along with a lot of the brutal death metal scene in the West. Many consider this a one-trick pony of a band. Now, it is popular in the East, which has always been more of a hardcore scene gravitating to slam and brutal death metal anyway. But all in all, this seems to be deemed a hardcore record disguised as a brutal death metal record. And I kind of see it. And I feel like the reason why metalheads think this is just a safe mainstream slam record and puts distaste in their eyes and ears is it just kind of looks like a hardcore logo. It looks like a blunt force trauma artwork, and then the hardcore logo is just there. I feel like it kind of overtakes the actual music. And imagery-wise, it's kind of the opposite of what you'd expect from something like this, like from Cephalotripsy, Digested Flesh, something like Disgorge even. It sounds closer to those types of bands, but artistically, it just plays the safe, I don't want to be like, it's not edgy, but, for this kind of genre, it just kind of suffers in lack of that. And you can make this statement that Internal Bleeding kind of has less graphic album covers, but even so, from a political standby, Internal Bleeding is total opposites of what Torture presents in their music. It kind of takes more of the punk left, grind, far left compared to Internal Bleeding's. And I know Torture's earlier, more gore noise content featured artwork that was more on par with the lyrical content of, those bands I mentioned. But looking at Enduring Freedom, it definitely took a different approach. And if you put Enduring Freedom's artwork side to side by some of Slam's greatest, like Cerebral Incubation, Afterbirth, Repudiation, Devourment, or even like Waking the Cadaver, it sort of feels out of place with the bunch. But is Torture the band that should be hyped up for good reason, or is it just something that hit the scene with a singular idea and objective and kind of reached that? Or do you think it's preparing to do something different yet again? I guess the main point to take away from this, according to others, is Torture just watered down war-themed Cephalotripsy safe slam? And I think that's the most main thing to take away from this. I've heard a lot of people just say that it's the best parts from Cephalotripsy, or just like kind of filler war-themed Cephalotripsy. I think a little bit of it is cool, especially the first track. I respect the vocals. I'm always one for the crickets and the frogs. But, you know, it's like, could you withstand that for half an hour or so that Enduring Freedom is without change? Let me know what you guys think in the comments.